little presentation today. Mr. Hirschman said it would happen, and he did. The closing statement last year of the clinic was the opening shows. What say it, Lair?
No, you go ahead.
No, you, sir. It was about the numbers. The numbers. Oh, please, we're not at that point yet. What'd you have for breakfast this morning? Okay, good. So that was a mini mental status, if you wanted to know. So anyway, he had said right at the end of the event last time, please don't put your numbers up so high the first couple shows of the season. And, oh, good Lord, was he right. So the good news is you can tell you like your job. You take it really seriously, but I think sometimes you're afraid to make that call, especially early on, and we're rewarding clean and done and not depth. So, but we'll get into that. Let's rock and roll, my friends. You know this process. This is the magic we will whip you rule, right? There will be no ties. No ties, ever! Ever! Right? Even in subcaptions, if you can avoid it. Is that right, Mr. Paul?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, good. And as this happy bouncer comes in, like you can't read it, the show that is incomplete, and I don't overreact to that was sort of what that said in that blank space. Don't simply reward the done and clean. And you got to advise. We need to counsel the done and clean folks that that's tonight. Next week or in 2 weeks from now, that may not be the case. And I don't think we're delivering that message either. So you're not giving yourself that space that you may need to call that shot later. So then the group starts to get animosity developing and the fact that, well, wait a minute. Didn't you say 3 weeks ago? Yeah, I did. Oh, I probably should have buffered that with saying that's tonight and it's limited. You know, cleanish and done, it does limit the scoring capacity. Are we telling the bands that from the get-go? Okay, that's not a good feeling, kids. I've had this feeling it was a colonoscopy. So it's frightening. Dr. Metz, what do you tell a group like that?
Which part?
They're done and clean, early.
They may have some opportunities.
Never done that.
Oh. Like that word.
Nice hit, Dale. Yeah, right.
I missed that. For me, I always have a question about whether or not it's really done.
Really done. So let's say it's
it's a matter-
fairly done.
Well, I talk about the foundation and the structure, but it raises lots of opportunities for levels. You layer
Areas
on
of
top.
growth, we suggest the areas that they can layer into for growth. We start using the buzzwords, the simultaneous responsibility thing, you know, giving a little more variety in that whole musicality thing. So the best way I figured out how to say this is we're gonna make a cake. Is the only thing I could come up with. Please forgive me. So this is the cynical, I have the best drill designer ever statement. That's the recipe. Just because you got the best chef or the best drill writer or the best music arranger in the world doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good show. God rest George Zingali, as he would say that constantly. That's not what I wrote. So, right? Right? Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. With me? I like the free-range roaming farm in upstate New York. It's the environment for those cows, let me tell you. That's a big deal, right? My friends will love it. Sometimes we don't, by the way, right? Yeah, that's a problem, too. We're expecting a reaction from our peers and cohorts. Dangerous. Just because you were seatmates in 1985 as you crossed the country on the DCI tour doesn't mean you're friends now.
I'm sorry, Mark.
That's all right, John.
Where are we put
That was really cool.
They're over
Was that some
here.
sort of character reference?
Back here.
That was cool.
Back here. Thank you.
So I have that oven open. We're going to check on the prognosis of the cake. And you know as well as I do, this thing isn't done. Right?
Okay. Keep that for those.
I won't insult your reading ability or your comprehension skills. Catching on where this is headed? This cake seems to be a little better than yours, and it's done. It's ready to eat and needs minimal decorations or icing, or as they say in Pittsburgh, jimmies on top. Right? Here, try it. And we do. It's all right, right? we agree with this analogy, sort of, kind of? You following me? Okay, cool. Agreed? Maybe? May actually score higher overall? Let's do a hypothetical. Now I'm trying to tie in the caption, obviously, not to insult you. And let's say it's that. Notice this is the done cake, and look at the subcaptions, just in this example. That's not bad. You know how many numbers were higher than that the second week of the season last year? All of them. All of them. Was that Gary? And you, and Adam too? Yeah, man. All. And no offense to I'm pointing at the two writers in the immediate area. No offense to the writers in the area. You're looking for specific numbers too, but we have to kind of change the paradigm of what those are in the locus, and I think it's going to translate better for us long term. So here's the bee cake. Not too much of a thing, but look at this. What are we saying? Talk to me, dear people. Go ahead, Robbie.
So obviously for cake B, there's more going on in the cake. Maybe there's like extra layers of filling or whatever. It's kind of another level, but it's not finished yet. Whereas cake A might be like a Betty Crocker box cake, but it's done and it's still good. And typically, in the beginning of the season, in my opinion, for cake A, a lot of times, possibly depending on how done they are, maybe the bottom number might even need to be higher. Because if you're going out and your top number is comparable to another group that has a better foundation of a product that may not be finished yet, you're sending the message that they're comparable. And chances are, if they're clean that early, there's probably not that much going on in the top area. And we need to make sure we're aware of that.
So what if that particular program, they only showed us the A cake? They only showed us the first 3 of the 4 tunes. How does that weigh into your analysis? So make sure you know that in the critique. Because sometimes they're so hypey about the number, not everybody, but plenty, are hypey about the number that they forget to tell you. And we got one more piece yet, so where are you going to go with this? They don't sometimes say that. They kind of set us up to see if we recognize that. So make sure you do your interrogation and interview with the client to make sure you know what path they're headed to, especially the bee cake. Because the bee cake, they're kind of cute and whimsy, and they'll say, well, we'll show you later, and they want to be mysterious and intriguing. And in reality, we have to have some clue. Because making a 7-10 spread, which, by the way, what is the maximum subcaption spread we could or should make?
What direction?
Between the 2 boxes, top and bottom box.
But what direction?
Oh, the top box being the highest.
Maybe 8 point?
1 point max. 8/10 is where we kind of hang. That's a major message. 1 point max. So when you see bands coming out in that second week in box 4 with 2/10, 2/10, 2/10, 2/10, 2/10, it's like, come on, man, we need a new abacus. We're not, and you're not setting us up who follow you. We're not taking care of our brothers and sisters in the fraternity. So then we come into the game and it's like, oh, well, Adam gave us, 15 last week. And I was like, well, Adam's high. I don't know what to tell you. And of course he's not. He's not. I'm sorry, brother. But you almost have to come across that extreme, and it's our own fault, individuals. We are individual contractors to send the right message. This 7-10 thing, this is obviously hypothetical, but what I'm worried about is, are we telling both of those bakers the right story down the road? Because if that band looks at their progress throughout the season, some of them grow minimally and then wonder why. And they blame us. And they're right in a strange kind of way. Sometimes. We're getting the full story of this mess. So that's the high end of box 2, by the way. That's not even box 3. A subtle reminder this weekend as you go out and place numbers down. That's the high end of box 2. So this band's already pushing towards that, they're not failing. Anything over a 60, 65 is not failing. Do we agree with that from the schooling perspective? Grading? 50, wow, what school do you go to? Dude, are they all right? You giving crayons out? No, it'd be like, but yeah, 60, over 60, generally not a fail. We agree, right? So we don't have to come out the first week of the season and say 75, 79, 80, 82. And whoa, ho, ho, ho. We don't know. And we're setting ourselves up for failure. it reflects on the whole process. It reflects as the cavalcade judge. You can be giving them great information, which, by the way, and I get the joy of listening to tapes, I learn from every single one of you. That's why I like this. If I don't learn something, I'm out. I don't want to do it. I learn something for every single one of you. And what's funny is the way we say the same message is so stylistically different person to person. And it sounds like, especially in my case, it can be seething with sarcasm, but at the same time, I'm saying the same thing that somebody like an Adam or a Rob would say, just in a different way. And if you know me, it's okay. It's kind of like reading a text message from somebody and hearing that person's voice. You got it. But if you don't know that person's voice, what are you yelling at me for? You know? Make sure we're clear and consistent with how we approach things. Make sure we're telling them the same stories. Do we agree with this whole thing? So, that's the high end of box 2 we were talking about. Going into 3. We didn't lie to them. We're telling them some good stuff. How much further can the cake go, kids? Right? Our mixed messages in the what boxes are continuous. And I think this was going on before I joined the team. Yes, you were always talking about top box stuff, concerns in that, especially the music cats, because I just think we have an interpretation difference. But the language is the same. Orchestration is orchestration is orchestration, although we've made the visual language fit it over the years, especially like the WGI people and Giorgio and Shirley Wickham made this language to fit. We've created our own language and visual to match this musical thing. But without the musical vehicle, it's a marching band. It's not a marching. And like last night, the previous show I did out near Erie, I'd rather watch paint dry many times because they don't play. But they did their drill. Stunning. Would you know what I mean? Isn't it crazy? Stunning. Yeah, we're not good with the music. We did the last 4 sets. Whatever. Right? Top box. So here's our thirds, right? This is an example I used from the back of the Cavalcade GE sheet. There's some wide ranges here, ladies and gentlemen. Dig that third box. You can not only park a car in there, you can park a semi with it, right? That third box, you're throwing darts in there sometimes, especially early season. So let's talk about how we're going to clarify between each one of those boxes in those neighborhoods. Can we talk about neighborhoods? Neighborhoods. Izzy, talk about a neighborhood in box 3 you're real comfy with. Like you see a band and go, that's a box 3 mid.
Box, kind of like middle of the road, I would say. In early season?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's
early
focus
season
there.
would be bottom box.
You just like that.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they kind of, sometimes I think is a good descriptor in terms of they kind of have the idea. Sometimes they touch upon some skills, but it's still early. They're still missing step offs. They're still, still early season issues. But you can tell that there's evidence of sometimes they touch on, there's evidence of technique sometimes, so on and so forth.
I love that word too. Isn't that great? Do you realize that you're saying sometimes giving out box 4 numbers the first week of the season? So we're sending the wrong message. So just those simple little adjectives or descriptor words do we consistently use in the process? Just those. I'm not telling you to change your language. I'm telling you to say sometimes as every so often. What is the way to get sometimes across in your style? That's what I'm sort of kind of focused on, because we're sending really bad messages here that, we're sending them cities instead of neighborhoods. We're placing them in a whole different city. They haven't moved up to the east side yet. You got to give them the time and the process to do that, and we have to give them the information to grow through that. And we have one band in this city, and we put this other band right next to them. Probably shouldn't even be in the neighborhood. They still should be working out and up. And we also, and I say this sort of tongue-in-cheek, don't judge by class. Aren't we judging the whole show? Paul, are we judging the whole show? Is he even back there? Aren't we judging the whole show, sir? Yeah. We have some folks, some may be in the room, judged by the class and the grouping. That makes it bad for us who follow you too. It's that rubric and that paradigm that we're going in regardless of class. Do we agree? Is that a bad thing to say? Adam, Ron? Ronnie, you good with that?
Well,
I mean, I agree with judging the whole show. If you're gonna judge the whole show, then get rid of the classic.
That would be a perfect world, but we got to have at least 20 trophies. Come on. 20 championships? Right. We don't want to hurt kids. I mean, that's the thing that some of the band staffs get confused with is we've been there. And some of us still are, and we're very sensitive, and we've been very empathic in how you feel in these events because we're doing it too. We never want to hurt the kids, but we're not always sending the right message. So our credibility and integrity looks suspect to that band director and network that's political comes out. Yeah, buddy.
All right. So my question is that we're supposed to make tapes for kids. That's like generally, if you're talking to the students, you're going to give quality feedback. My issue comes from directors then come in, don't check their egos at the door with those, I brought the ghost of George Zingali back through a seance to write my drill, and I called Doug Thrower, and we called every Thursday for 3 hours to discuss this, and it's hard to, and then they don't want to tape when the students aren't doing the right thing. So I have a hard time putting my language in box 2 and not having a staff come in and attack early in the season.
Go ahead, Robbie. You got him.
And that was just personally, that was something I used to struggle with. You need to get good at trying to frame things through a positive lens and having gentle ways to let them know that they're not achieving. If there's design issues, you have to have gentle ways to let them know that. You can't let the fact, if you might be hesitant to give that low number, because they're going to base their perception of the number they expect from you on your tape and how you say things. So if they're at a 68, you're like, listen, it seems like you guys have so much in-depth design that you've really planned out well. Just to be perfectly honest, it's the second week of the season. It seems like we're having significant achievement issues right now, which are really preventing us from being able to recognize everything you have going on. That's a really nice way of saying, like, your show's too busy, you're not good right now. But it's a way that is easier for them to receive. And if a band director comes in and has an issue with that, which is going to happen, sometimes there's no way around that personality conflict, but you just have to be confident in the way you phrase things and the way you speak to them. And especially when it comes into bands of various sizes, while we look within the class, it's easier to look within the class in terms of score spreads, but the rubric must be the same from a small band to a large band, because for many reasons, like it's small bands just because they can't put out the same sound as a large band doesn't mean we can't score them as high. If they're achieving well and within their means, and it's oftentimes we'll look at recaps and see, the independence bands are at the bottom and the scores go up and up and up as the classes get bigger, which is also a sign that like we're not really following the rubric as well as we should. And bands also really like to say, well, this guy at this show last weekend or this gal at this show last weekend gave us this number, and now you're giving, and usually that comes, unless there's a show with like 5 bands and then one with 20 bands, usually that comes from just not really recognizing the rubric and reacting accordingly.
Yeah. John.
I think that making a determination before you see a band perform as to who you're going to address is akin to a doctor already diagnosing a patient before they've examined them. I think you need to watch the band's performance, and if you see well-trained kids who are not maximizing their performance, you talk to the kids. If you see kids who obviously have been given way too much material without enough information, you should be addressing the staff, and you should be basically saying, what the hell are you doing to these kids?
Mark.
My comment's sort of similar to John's in that I was thinking, and it may just be semantic, I don't know that I've ever made a tape for the kids.
Directly for the children
I
and
make
students.
it, it's my responsibility to address things that kids have no idea about, especially if I'm talking to the designers. So I think it's important to be careful about who we're addressing and not necessarily dumb it down to the kids so much as it's important to create feedback that's able to be heard by the kids. I think that's different than making it tape for the kids. And I think if we make it tape for the kids, we're completely missing our responsibility to teach all the things we need to teach the staff as well.
I'm not saying you're completely wrong where you're going with the tape for the kids. We
Yeah.
want the tape that the kids can hear and latch
And
into
again,
too.
it's a
Yeah.
semantic.
It might be
and,
some.
and again, different people are looking at different aspects of the group. I mean, I primarily do field music.
You're right
so
there,
I
yeah.
am down in the trenches with them, analyzing 2 to 3 at a time. So I need my comments do need to sort of directly be back to them, whereas Dr. Metz is sitting in the box looking at the effect, the entire picture.
Mhm.
You know, one trumpet player is not going to, oh, I realize now that like I wasn't making that impact. That's not the case.
Okay, brother.
I'm just backing up where he just made the point, was that from the general effect standpoint, the tapes are going to end up sounding different from the field, because I don't know many band directors who play beyond the field or ensemble tapes to their kids. They often play the field and field tapes to the kids, sometimes the ensemble tapes, but I don't know a lot of band directors who play the general effect tapes to their kids. So me, as a field person, my tape is almost always geared more towards the individual performer and less to the person who's telling them how to do it. And I think it also depends on where you are judging from. I'm going to back up my friend here and say, I feel that there is a different language that we have to use depending on where your tape is coming from.
Totally outside perspective.
That's why I want to hear it, because you have this hand thing going, which means okay, talk.
So I'm in Texas.
Texas, represent. Welcome.
Thank you. So just in my personal experience judging, as long as you're commenting on what the points of comparison are within the boxes and using those as your focus for your commentary, it takes for everyone. Because the staff should be teaching the kids, this is what the judges are looking for. So these are the points of comparison they're using. They may not do that, but I mean, as long as we're using that as our focus point, the tapes can be made for both the students and the staff, because we're talking about the process, how the kids are doing what they're doing. So the what is basically geared toward the staff, and how they're doing is basically geared towards the kids. Now, when you do that, I like to, if I see a serious problem with the program, I will say thank you for your. The rest of my comments will be addressed to the staff at the end of my tape.
At the wrap up.
And then I say, staff, you got to train these kids how to march backwards. They're not showing any consistent training in that aspect, so please make sure you're doing that. And say, that's the area of vulnerability I see for you compared to the others in your that you're competing against.
Well
That's just
stated.
programmed to that.
I've actually done the opposite of that,
Go on.
where it's obvious that the training is there and the kids aren't stepping up. And in my wrap up, I will say, your staff is giving you all the tools, now you need to step up.
Call it a day.
Yeah.
Whatever performance it is. Good discussions. Other points of this. Go ahead.
We're going to have more information this year. When you put the recaps out there, we
Oh,
have the
yeah, buddy.
opportunity
Oh, yeah.
to know where that band was last week, let's say.
But should you be reading recaps?
Well, here's the point. So now I do an evaluation, and I'm aware that a week ago they were pushing box 3, and I'm listening to this and going, how the hell did they get there? How did that evaluator get that? Well, now I have an opportunity in preparing for the critique to think of a couple of things that were probably recognized and commented on, and prepare the team that's going to come talk to me for the fact that I don't think that was a realistic number for you, and here's why.
Talk, folks. This is a big statement Gary just made. Paul! Ladies and gentlemen, Paul came back in after we talked about judging the whole show. Anyway, Paul.
Okay. What's that supposed to mean? Show of the day. I totally get you, Gary. It's so easy to go in and they got a 6.5. I'll give them a 6.8, and I won't get in trouble. No. It doesn't matter, and every circuit goes through this from a recap standpoint, but it's information. It doesn't have anything to do with tonight.
Other comments?
But I think his point's valid.
Very.
Because
Extremely.
quite
Oh,
frankly,
absolutely.
if you can prepare for where you know it's going to come from, it makes it a much better dialogue at the end.
Agreed. So,
It's
difference.
about doing your reconnaissance and then using that information while
Well,
you judge the
yeah,
show of the day.
right.
And prepare yourself to get blasted and critique if you know you've dropped somebody.
It is
But don't
good
mention
information
it
to know
over.
ahead of time. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to hurt these folks, but I have to
Depends
tell
what
them
you
the
do with
truth
it. It's
for
like
this night.
anything else.
Right.
Ron,
Yeah. Yo. Hey.
well, just before I leave, as from a band director standpoint, I just want to throw a couple band director comments on
Please.
this. First of all, I've actually pulled sheets up and showed when I give like an educational experience when it comes to tapes. I show the sheets and like the back of the sheets,
Yay.
and I actually play tapes. And whether the tape is 100% directed towards staff, then we'll say, hey guys, towards the end of the season, we may have dropped the ball on this. Let's see if we can fix it. Or if it's directed towards the kids, what can we do to get better? So that's one thing. Second of all, by all means, don't be afraid to drop our numbers. If my band craps the bed the second week of the season after we had a great show the first week, I'm all for it, and I'll show the kids that and say, hey guys, here's why we dropped. Those are just a few band director comments.
Cool.
If for no other reason, if you don't, they'll start to wonder why.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Very much so agreed. So the difference between doing your research and doing analysis. Get an idea where we're at, but don't overanalyze the process because it's going to be out there for everybody to look at their smartphones, especially kids. Let's not forget, and the younger instructors. I hear on the wrap-ups, especially folks that are uncomfortable with the using the sheets in the boxes. The wrap-up, it's like you can kind of hear, it's like, check, the French judge says this, the Russian judge says that, yeah, I saw that. Watch you're not checklisting, laundry listing the subcaption. You know what I mean by that, right? Okay. Yeah, the what and the how. It's that old derived achievement philosophy seems to be impairing some of us folks. Could we talk about this a little bit, the integrity of some of the components, the top box, the what? Sometimes the what appears or sounds much more than what its content is. Just because it's well rehearsed doesn't mean that it's always the real deal. It could be practiced, but is it communicative? Is it engaging? Are they able to bring that to that next level? Talk to me about top box integrity. Anybody. The integrity of the top box. Do you think the staffs understand the top box? I'm shaking my head no too. Yeah. Well, here's our opportunity to be the teacher and the counselor in our teacher, counselor, critic roles. We got to start talking about this to them. Literally, if it means you flipping a sheet over and pointing to stuff, do it. Do it. Because the phone calls that I dealt with early season were, and I swear to God, nothing against any band directors out there, the guy says, well, we're a little dirty, but that show that only had 2-3 minutes done, they beat us by 2 points. And he couldn't understand that at all. But the band that beat them by the 2 points was clear. It was concise. You knew what was happening. The kids had the training, the whole deal. These band directors, some of them are very focused on the fact if I'm done, I should win, period, in the early season. And number two, if it's clean, it wins. And clean becomes a very subjective kind of word, right? So the integrity of the top box comes from your own knowledge of the top box. So I suggest like little mini things. Like, do you ever do Wordles? Like go online, you can create a Wordle by putting in the criteria reference and it'll pop up this Wordle and carry that with you. If you're searching for words to say and start tying it into your dialogue. Right? It's easy to spot errors. The first word I think we learn as babies is no. We actually understand that word. They'll say, well, no, it was mama, dada. I'm like, no. You know what no is, right? And the next word you usually learn is mine. No, mine, right? We get it. So the whole simplicity of things, we can pick out errors. We're trained to be negative thinkers, negative processors. We can walk into a room and tell you everything is wrong with it in very fast and quick order, but ask us to find everything that's right with it. If you're not in that positive thinking, you don't. Argument, discussion. A lot of us old schoolers, and I'm going to say old schoolers like baby boomer and before, notice the generation gap, are very much fascists and Nazis with our execution concepts. Very much so. No offense, Mr. Templin, but yeah, I'm with you, brother.
That's why we beat you.
That's right. Oh, deserve it. Okay. So, yeah. You're right. Right? The newer generation is being trained a different way, and that's not bad. We need to grow with that. And I watch all summer and I listen all summer. No, folks, it's not drum corps. Let's be honest. This is something new. We're just labeling it as this is drum corps. This is the next thing. Thank God for indoor percussion. Just want to say, I think indoor percussion has driven the whole activity to a whole nother place that we would have never thought of in the old marching band days. This is beyond marching band. This is performance in performance art. So for us to look at the achievement of what these kids are doing, I'm asking you to look at what they're doing all at the same time. We get hung up in the execution of something, but what else are they doing? What's this doing? What's this doing? What's the body doing with that? We tend not to talk about that. We get a lot into excellence issues. And then while you're doing that thing on the tape, you don't let it go. And it becomes something you just latch onto. And it's like all these other things are happening. We're talking about that execution statement. Guilty of it too, especially if it's bad. Because you want to make sure they know. And I'm thinking, listen to my own stuff, I'm like, I'm sure they know. They're not stupid folks, but I'm talking to them like I'm trying to correct it. And that can be taken the wrong way. They can correct it. We just got to hit it and move on. The Jamie Thompson rule. Snot clean is not necessarily good composition. 2002 DCA championships. Snot clean is not necessarily good composition. Okay. And he was right. He was right. But we tend to reward it. Right? I gave him credit for that. So. The IAC. You know, you're really subconsciously also comparing the groups that aren't there that you've already seen. You revisit that little archive quickly, right? And for those of you that are out every week, it almost becomes a personality disorder because you're going back through those shows. Even if it's a microsecond, you're doing it. It is becoming part of your overall impression. We have to be cognizant of this because I think that's bleeding into some of what's happening 2 weeks later. That one night, that band's home show ripped the place down and you judged it. The next week, they were flat as a pancake. It's got to reflect somewhere in the scoring process. So our impression is our box. Where does it fit in the box? Neighborhoods, whatever. The units that we're rating sometimes aren't at the show. They're in our head. They're in our impression area that we last saw. But if you travel all over the country, you'll see a band here and go, oh, they were great. And then you go over into some other state and was like, oh, they sucked. These bands are great. We are victim of our little microcosm of society here. Geography has kind of pigeonholed us, and I'm saying us because this is a big circuit, but it's still a pigeonhole. How many of our bands do Bands of America? 1, 2, 2. He's saying 4. You got 4? 4 out of 100? Think about that, right? 4 out of 100. The Northwest Circuit, 1 out of 18. All right? Pimba, 2 out of 11. See the ratio here? So those bands are coming to the table and people go, oh my God, it's brand new stuff and all of us are in the activities. No, that's not new. Vanguard did that in like 1998. You know what I mean? But it's new to these kids. So the relative process of how we're looking at things, do we consider who we're judging or just what and how? Not necessarily all Bands of America bands, are they? They're going to compete across the Susquehanna River, and that's like a big night of rivalry. Right? I'm catching on. This has been a culture shock. I'm catching on. It's like, oh, thank God your critiques are over at 11. Now I get home before 5. That's great. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so, right, though? Right? We forget about us and the who. I don't want to stay with just what and how. How about who? There is that part of you that's got to sit there and go, you know what? All the kids are in the same uniform. They all got off the bus. Maybe that's a couple tenths more. I know what else they could be doing on a Friday night. I think some bands are being crucified unjustifiably just because this other band in the show's done. Who? You keep in mind the who? We talk about what and how, but don't forget the who. They're important. They're our future. You know how many bands are like 12 wins, 14 wins, 20 wins? You sit there and say, why don't you guys sell the equipment and make a softball team? This would be far better and far more involvement. So don't forget that we're advocates for the activity, and don't forget about the kid, the who. You know? Is that fair? Oh, and don't judge laundry or last year. Oh, one of the worst things in the world in a critique is when the band comes in and the judge says the first couple weeks, oh, you're so much further ahead than last year. It's like, ooh. Did you see what you did? You're remembering. And that impression stays with you, especially if it was a hot year. We've seen groups that have won championships and come back that next season, not so good on that first show, and you panic-stricken for them, but then scratch your head up going like, I know these folks know better. Well, benefit of the doubt number-ish. We thinking about who? Not the laundry. Go ahead, buddy.
However, I've been running it into with a couple of the bands recently. This is a recent thing that's kind of come up, is that they've been trying to expect us to give them things based on their reputation, and when I respond back that I'm not judging them based on what they were doing before, they then get all upset with me saying, and have accused me of all kinds of things because I've said that. I'd like to know, what some of your ideas of how to respond to that.
I don't judge laundry. May the best blue team win, okay? I don't care. It's that night, and it's those people. And the more that we all say the same type of language, the less you should hear of that. Hopefully. I don't want to shoot all over myself, but no, hopefully. Yo, bro.
I find that some bands and their instructional staff are kind of long-term projects, though. Over the course of years, some people seem to put it together after a period of time with help, and others seem to just kind of bump along the way they have been. And while I don't want to, none of my ranking and rating has anything to do with last year, I still feel it's beneficial to recognize teams that are starting to put the thought process together.
At the end, when they're walking out,
next.
You're on the right track. Great progress at the end. I'm saying and I agree, John, we need to tell them when they're doing good things. And like I said last night a couple times, just twice actually, is keep teaching. Wow, keep teaching. Because you could tell there was real education going on because the kids were delivering that back to us in application. But you're right, John. I think we forget to compliment, but watch where you compliment, because if that's your opening statement, you're now setting yourself up for problems. You could say, well, this isn't last year, especially if you had a rough run, But if you're recognizing the growth, yeah. And the other thing, too, like he was saying, the new director thing, this is not going to be an easy ride for some of these cats. Let's face it. They're going to jump over into programs and go, yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to change it. And they are going to struggle and have growing pains and band parents that are creatures from hell and everything else that they have to deal with. So it's not going to be an easy. Is that a fair statement to say, Paul?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So no matter how much talent they and their staff brings to that new assignment, it may not gel for a while. So even though what they're capable of as a design team, don't forget the who in this case and what they're delivering to us. Yes? Cuckoo? All right. Right? Here's what we were talking about a little bit before when Dr. Metz was saying about a point. We like to hang in that 8/10 area. WGI, national level stuff. We'll talk a point, but boy, you better be able to back that puppy up. Big time. Is that fair to say, Mark? You better be talking the language of that one. So, 4, 5, 6 tenths. By the way, is this total score that I'm talking about? No. Right, brother. What am I saying? Yeah. Love you dearly. Not the 4, 5, or 6 bands that are in your show. The rubric. We tend to judge the performance of the night, but don't forget there's a universe that we're operating in too, far past your little show, wherever you're at, right? So yeah, we want the subcaption thing. At least 1 to 2 significant differences. Yeah, at least. Also the training. Don't forget the who. You're rewarding like the overall show, but sometimes the who is not being trained. And then as we talk about the neighborhoods versus the city thing, we're getting lost in the sauce with the city. Keep them in the neighborhood until they can afford to move up to the east side. You know? You can't read the top. But, right? Impression analysis and comparison. It isn't, you micro-visit the impression from the last time you saw that band, a year ago, last week, but the analysis is of the night. And the comparison is of the bands in that show to the rubric. Actually, I would do the rubric, then the bands in the show. The nice thing about Competition Suite, if you've never used it in totality, what a wonderful tool. The old days where we would have to do everything in pencil and send that sheet in, and that first number, you're stoned. That's it. The Competition Suite has made life so much, I think, better. It was a hard adjustment at first, but so much better because through time, you can react appropriately to a group that comes out 7, 8 bands down the road, way better than your first impression. Wrong? Yes. Yeah. So embrace the Competition Suite as much as you can. It's tremendous. And don't verify until you've seen everybody you need to see. Are they going to do verified by class when they do Competition Suites, Paul? Or are they going to do by the show?
No, I think we do it by class.
I was saying about don't judge in the class, judge the show.
No, you got to judge within the class.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we're judging all Independence bands.
Oh, that,
as one
yeah,
entity.
by that rubric, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Sorry, what did I miss that you were asking?
Go ahead, John.
I think the difference that we're talking about is if you have a subcaption tie between one class and another, it's not like death.
Yeah, it won't kill you.
No.
Right.
No,
It won't
within
kill
the
you.
class.
It won't kill you. But use it as your impression mark.
Your rubric is still
comparison.
your rubric, but if you tie a subcaption from one
Class to class,
to the next
all
one,
bets are
it's
off.
No big deal.
Yeah, like championships, it's the battle of the tenths. You know, and it was 1/10 like the whole first 7, 8 bands, which we can do better. We can do better for them, and sometimes we need to, especially lately. This is the whole deal. John had said on the video, pick a unit. I'm telling you, pick 2 because the first couple units that you do, if you haven't been judging a lot, are going to be rusty. I would pick 2 out of that show. Your better one and one that you think is okay, like you wouldn't mind hearing as a staff member, and submit those. You're going to review your commentary. This is all part of accountability. We do it everywhere in the country. It's nothing new. It's not punishing. It's really so we can develop an individual educational plan, almost an IEP to move forward. And there's some of you folks, love you dearly, you should be doing other captions. Because you can hear the tendency to float into these other captions. It's like, why aren't you doing effect? You know? So we need to do that. We need to grow. And we need to offer folks that variety to grow. There's going to be a form on the next slide. And actually, Rob, you come up with the whole criteria reference, the color-coded boxes, right? Rob will go over that stuff with you on the boxes. But you're going to return your tapes to, if it's Adam for the visual and Rob for the music, and then put John and I on it too. So that way, we're all in the same language, and we know what you're up to. We did this last year. Some of you got tapes strictly from me. I like to do the thing where I'm listening to you, and I record myself over top of it. So you hear where you're at. I think it's more real-time kind of thinking. If you don't dig that, sorry, it's the best way I've known to communicate. Plus, it saves me a hell of a lot of typing, and I can do it in the car while I'm driving, which is a whole other thing. My 4 hours home from the show. So, which is great. Another competition suite thing it is. This is our problem. We can't be proactive. We're being reactive. Like 3/4 mark of the season, as Paul mentioned briefly about, it's business, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a business. It isn't personal. But as judges, we are passionately engaged, and it's personal, easily. And when you have folks that are not asked back or asked to or removed from a show, it hurts. It hurts them. It hurts us too. You know, it's like telling somebody, dude, your baby's just ugly, okay? Get it away from me. You wouldn't do that. Although most babies are mutants to me, but you wouldn't do that, right? Would you? Well, maybe you would, Mark. But no, you wouldn't do that. Only certain babies. Okay, I got you. So I think we're missing that opportunity to make ourselves better and to prevent a long-term problem. If a band is hearing the same message from 3 judges, which we know because we're listening to tapes, it enables us to tell that band, say, well, I know for a fact you had this person in ensemble music and that person in GE visual tell you the same problems in that event. So it's probably more than just politics or more than just a personal relationship with a judge person. The other thing with that I got to mention, because it happened to me, in these shows, we're in these small press boxes that really are chicken coops. They're tiny, and there's people like Mama's sitting right here, and I can see the cradle cap in her head. And there's the judge standing right by me, and we're all packed in there together, smelling each other's bodily scents. Then the judge says, wait till you see this one, Ron. They're real good. Ladies right there, not wearing the colors of that team. Can't do that. Plus, oh, Paul's giving the thumbs up. Plus, from my end, I don't give a damn at all. Let me make that impression. I go back to the whole, I don't like reading the patient's chart. I just want to get an impression before I go in there and then go read the chart. You're right. You're absolutely right. I want my impression of it. And then go, this smells. Well, now I'm going to go read the chart. Or now I'm going to get the collateral information for the family to understand it. Absolutely. I love that analogy. We can't talk like that. Ever. Period. In the back room, might you? Yes. Oh, and another famous one. So the band parents are so kind, and they put out such quality spreads that are far better than that little thing around the corner there. Our bands do a great job with hospitality. What is wrong with you? Look at that. Did you, how long did it take you? What, 2 minutes at Wally World? And you're out the door? It's not even hospitality. You don't treat your folks like this. Folks, let's bond together for good food, shall we? But our bands do a great job of that hospitality, but they have parents hanging out there. And we're chatty. Why? Why? Us guys who know each other for years, we'll get tight to the corner. Different. They don't hear anything. But when you're sitting across the table, cross-talking about a band you saw last week that's at that same show that night, not good. And that was overheard. That reflects on all of us. I wanted to go one more thing, if you don't mind, that I talked about in the West. This sounds crazy, but trust me. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to go to bathrooms in pairs at shows.
I forgot to mention that because that was a DCA
Yeah.
edict for judges.
Yeah, and DCI, yeah. And it's right.
Yeah.
I noticed that even at the crappy show I was at last night, it was like I grabbed one of the judges. I said, go with me, man. He goes, what? I said, trust me. And then I explained as I was going, oh, yeah, that's right. That's a good idea. We're at that point. Sad.
Doesn't happen.
It's sad.
Doesn't happen as much outdoor, but indoor.
Oh.
You go into a bathroom
Ooh.
and
they're changing?
yeah,
Yeah,
the
right.
whole drum line
Yeah,
is on
the
it
whole
now.
color guard. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Go in pairs, or see if you can go the faculty one that's removed from the students. Anything is possible. And like Paul said, we're just getting to the tip of this iceberg. This is not going to go well. But we're going to be proactive, as the folks are in the administration, with the clearances. Those of you who have trouble with clearances, don't freak out, find out. If you had a charge some years ago, like a DUI or something like that, it may be expunged by now. It may be something that you don't have to deal with, or some other problem in a job that you had. Get the clearance. Work through it. Some folks say 25 years ago, no, I don't know if I can get your clearance. Try it. What do you have to lose? All right? So this is kind of how the self-assessment's going to work. This is basically what we're looking for you to do. Pretty simple, right? Clear and concise. This is a John Kreitzer thing. He was real big on clear and concise. Yeah, okay, clear and concise, to the point. In caption, that's a reflection of where we're at in our knowledge of the top box, right? Looking for the balance thing. Helpful, informative. Simple, right? Questions on that. That's what we're looking for you to assess yourself in, especially at the beginning of the season. And then we're looking at the five boxes. Rob's got the rubric of that. You can actually see it. We will judge you just like you judge the bands. And this is your peers. Speaking of, how many of you actually share files with each other? And the defense rests. Okay, there's 3. I would rather Rich Template tell me how bad a tape was than anybody else, because he's been there and done that and does do that. So I want to share with people that know. I just got an evaluation for Bruno Zuccola from one of the tapes I did last night. Been there, done that. The guy knows the business. I also want the people that are local, homegrown, to share with each other, because you go, oh, there's that way to say that I wasn't thinking of. Oh, there's another way to say that sucked in such a nice way they look forward to it, right? You're not maximizing your left-right potential. What's that mean? You're out of step. And that, ladies and gentlemen, if you know him, was a Dan Niebauerism. You're not maximizing your left-right potential. I'm like, dude, what? You're out of step. Oh, okay. I got you. Here we go. Right? Am I missing anything so far, kids? Anything you want to chime in? Yeah, Mark?
Can I just throw in one thing?
Show.
I hate to get things like this where somebody at the end of the conversation goes, can I bring up one more thing? And now I'm doing it to you guys. I apologize.
Thanks, because I was really worried that no one would. So.
Something you said earlier reminded me of the experience I had this winter. We have gotten rid of score sheets now for long enough that people don't know what's on the score sheet.
Oh.
Especially the consumers, band directors, etc. So I don't know if there's a way for the circuit to get those out to people in a more regular way every once in a while. I don't know. But more importantly, I heard a discussion this winter among national level judges, which scared me, because somebody brought up the idea of, well, if we're judging the what and the how because we're judging achievement, how come my kids are being judged by the design? The kids are not being judged by the design. They're being judged by the skill set necessary to make the design happen.
Well said.
And it scared me, the person's mouth from whom this question came, who is a really well-known person who knows where it's like, dude, your kids weren't screwed, and nobody's judging your kids against whether or not it was designed well and you took forth the composition. It's the skill set. Kids aren't challenged as much. So I just want to throw that out there for
So back to the who.
good of the order,
Yeah.
that it's important for us to be able to help groups understand the what in an upstairs caption is different than the what in a downstairs caption, even though they're sort of tangentially relating to the same things.
But
Your
it
kids
also,
aren't being judged by the design.
Right.
Kids are being judged by the skill sets they have to achieve in order to make the design happen.
and the application of such. Yep. Well said, Mark. That was good. That was a good disruption to the whole flow of things. That was good. Right? I love the word philosophy. That means trying to tell you something that you maybe not believe in. Believe in it. Because if we don't believe in it, they will never believe in it. Every time I'm driving somewhere, I go, well, how long am I going to keep doing this? Well, until it's no longer fun. If you're at that point as an adjudicator, it's not fun, and you're doing it for that big money, just get out. Just get out. Save yourself trouble. Because we're forgetting where it come from and where it's going. If you want to be a part of the future of this and help these young people take care of us when we're old, stay with the philosophies and engage. Right? Primary responsibilities is ranking and rating. It is not, you suck and I rated you as such. It is ranking and rating by a structured system, right? Subcaption profiling, we know, we've talked a lot about that. The units. Those bands, they hire us to be that consultant for 7 to 10 minutes. We're the paid gun, literally. So how we deliver the information, it's first to them in service. Please don't forget about us who follow your box 4 numbers on the first week of the season. It makes for a very long run. And like Gary was saying, yeah, you have to tell them, like, oh, well, I'm sorry to say, we got to pull this number back. This is now my baseline with you at this performance that night. Don't be afraid to do that. Be careful with reading the recaps. It can twist you. Be careful. I wouldn't analyze too much. You may want to get the hierarchy, but I don't know. That's just me. Due diligence is that, are you growing outside of the activity? Like I believe in the YouTube thing, one, because it's just appeals to the voyeur tendency in me, but it's the fact that it's for the psych people in the room. So, you can see anything, and you can see it from a perspective that's not emotionally engaging. So it's hard to do effect watching YouTube videos because you're not there live with the deal. But you can talk about construction. You can talk about what you would assume it is. Do it. Practice. Listen to yourself. We have dumb phones. They will record anything we say. Do it on the dumb phones. Play it back for yourself. Share it with your friends. Send it to me. Send it to Rob. Send it to Adam. We need to hear each other. There's really good judges in this room, and I say this as a blanket statement because I think some of you don't know how good you are because you haven't heard bad judges over on my side of the state. Seriously. And Paul, it's no smoke thing. There's great judges here. One of your bad ones, you should have came with me last night. But no, seriously. Very good people. But let's grow from that. Don't get pigeonholed into, like you do mostly on the field music, right? Why haven't you grown up upstairs? Nice face, nice face. Why haven't you gone upstairs?
I enjoy the safety of being able to be very analytical in my approach. And I've got
safety. Take note. Take this guy out. He's looking at his safety. We're going to put a target on you now, man. Okay. Great answer.
I have changed. When I started in 2008, I had never been a band director. I'd always been a tech. So I was always working at the field level. So that was where I was most comfortable giving back information. But this is now year 6 being a high school band director.
Good for
so
you.
now I am the guy standing on top of the tower, and I do have a better understanding and a better idea of what that is. Am I comfortable with it? Not yet, but that's because I don't do it on a regular basis.
Brilliant. Well said. Okay, you win. We'll let you go. It was honest. It was very honest, very clear. I'm in it. Due diligence means exposing yourself to other activity things that are out there, other performance arts that are out there. Don't be that person that said, I've never seen like anything like that before. Be that person that says, I've seen something similar to that one time. And that's through your own exposures. Use the YouTube thing. Use television. There's only 116 channels of nothing. I mean, you find something to watch in there that you can pull from. And that was for you, Mark, because I stole it mostly from your sides back in the day. So, yeah. Right? Do we agree? Cool. We are not judging apples and oranges. I had to redirect 3 different bands of that. We're judging fruit, damn it. No apples and oranges. Is it good fruit? Are they good apples and good oranges, and good peaches and good pears? Bands actually feel that their style of programming, they're the apples, the other group's the oranges, and we're asking each other, no, we get it. It's fruit. Fruit is fruit is fruit is fruit. Go ahead, Rich.
Vince Bruni challenged me one day. And he said, when I was judging after that, and he said, give me your definition of entertainment. Oof. When I bite into an apple, I get instant gratification. When I peel an orange, I have to get through the rind to get to the substance. What's your evaluation? I said, it's fruit salad.
Perfect.
That was the end of it.
I was scared you were going to go in a whole different direction when you mentioned Vince. I'm like, oh, good God. This could be anything. I've lived those times. That is not good. Yeah. So, right, we agree with the force analysis. Great, Mr. Templin. Thank you much, sir. And, oh, yeah, contest dynamics. I think we overuse that word. It's kind of like the word amazing. I think people should stop using amazing. Because, oh, they have the most amazing cheeseburgers. Well, if it's amazing, it could talk. It's not amazing. It's a cheeseburger. For God's sakes, right? Be careful of the dynamics of the contest. And one thing that I do dig in some of the other circuits is the best band goes on first often. And that sets you up for very interesting impression from that time forward. But yeah. What is the old Steve Jobs thing? Stay hungry. Just stay hungry. If you're not hungry, you don't have the passion, get out, man. Because it's going to show up in your work. And it's going to show up in how your sound of your voice comes across. Is it nurturing and caring? There's some folks that do great one-to-one. You can listen to your tape, it's like it's the old radio game. The test of a radio announcer is, do you feel like you're having a one-to-one discussion with that person? A good radio announcer, you kind of lean in. Howard Stern's mastered it. Over the years, you listen to him. Not because he's Howard Stern, but because he comes across as, I'm talking just to you. I'm talking to millions of people, but just to you right now, I'm delivering this message. Yes, sir.
Talking about the get out, John and I had a very very unique situation last fall where we finished judging the show mid-season, and a judge came up to us, sat down, he goes, "I can't do this anymore." And he goes, I can't, I just can't do it anymore. Thank you, I'm done. And it was very surprising and a little painful because it was a great judge and a good friend. But I admired him for doing that.
Yeah. At some point, we got to recognize it and have that insight to say it's the best thing to do. If it's not, and these words are resonating with you about getting out and staying hungry and moving forward, then let's talk about trying some other captions. Use YouTube. Hit me up, hit Adam up, hit Rob up, so we can start thinking outside your own little comfort zone a little bit, right? Into the rest of the world, right? Yay! It's quality, not quantity. Going back to those small bands, those 12-member bands. If you have a quarter carat diamond, it's the cut, the clarity, the quality. It could be far superior in quality, in the essence of what it is, versus that full carat. It's a big clunky rock that's not quite as cut, not quite as clear. Do we agree with that analogy? Okay. So look deeper into the quality of the stuff. And I think that's it, kids. Questions? Concerns? Critical remarks? Threats against my life. Go, sir.
Just a comment about you are basically their consultants. For the
Yeah,
8 minutes.
for 7 to 10 minutes.
Since this is going to be my first year judging Cavalcade Marching Band, how consultant-y?
Within that 7 minutes of
within
time
that
frame.
7 minutes? Yeah. Like,
Staying in your caption.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, they can't like Facebook message you later and go, "Hey, dude, so we're rehearsing Tuesday night. You coming over?" No. No. But yeah, right. I want to come across as that one-to-one interest.
Okay.
Are we
Nerdy
truly
Whopper-
interested in every single band? I'm sorry?
I was going to say Nerdy Whopper effect comments from the field.
Oh, please. And that's where I go to the people that are working on the field and say, "Oh, this would be so much more effective if you do this." You need to get upstairs and do some effect tapes. Because if you're saying that, then you have some sort of insight how that works. Feel me? Because we do hear that a lot. Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. That happens a lot. Just the whole staying in your caption.
Yeah.
Go out of their caption a lot. They're in the wrong caption.
I like to be pulled out of the caption if it's a hot performance of something. I got to say. Tenors, man, did you throw I mean, that's exciting to me. But anyway, that's not my caption. But going to the next thing, well, count it in performance, you know? Rob, anything? Good? Other questions? Back to threats against my life, sir? Dale! Dale, how are you, Dale? Yeah, that's okay. It's an Eagle fan thing, but you'll be all right.
Standing in the wrong place.
That's all right, baby.
Somebody like singing to that fight song, I can do that for you guys.
No. Thanks, brother.
Are we going by group or by total show as far as how you're using the sheets? So I thought that came up and he said group and you said total show.
I'm saying total show, but he's saying within the class. There's the competitions within the class.
Yeah, it's actually in our rules that to stay, you're judging independence, and then you're judging American.
Right.
So I mean, if you want to, I mean, in some of the smaller shows, I've always thought it was just good practice from a numbers management standpoint to try and not tie anybody or anything like that.
That's the way I always approach it, because if I have an independence and a liberty, they'll never get close. Right? The idea is that an independent should be able to get an 8.5.
Oh, absolutely.
As much as a
Absolutely.
liberty.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yes, sir.
So the question then remains: if we want to keep that mentality, if we want to have that mentality, then do we talk to the bands that have that overall winner thing at the end of the show? I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I believe we should judge within the class, but I go to a lot of shows where at the end of the night it's like, hey, this band got the highest score of the night, and they get this extra trophy and this special accolade.
Paul?
We try and eliminate that. There are some overall awards, like overall effect or overall, I don't know, music or whatever. We try and eliminate that. I'm not aware of any show that does an overall score winner.
I did one in Jersey last year that had one.
Okay.
The TOB does that quite a bit.
Yeah, but you know, if that's the case, let me know that so that we can address it with the director.
Sure.
Other questions, comments? Yes, brother.
You mentioned about the relationship between the top box and the bottom box not going more than the point difference.
Yeah, generally. That's
Now,
making a bad statement. Yeah.
You never spoke about putting the how over the what.
Thank
Through
you.
my academy experience this past winter,
Mhm.
that was part of the discussion. And I've seen, and I've also experimented with that process this past winter.
Good.
And I'm curious to know what your philosophy is on that. So if I approach or I see a show where I may feel that might be warranted,
You do it,
you do it. Okay.
even if it's first week of the season. Even if it's first week of the season, if that was the case. But
Just be prepared for
yeah.
the fallout. after
Yeah.
that.
Well, only fallout from the more educated staff people that are looking at those subcaptions. Most of those cats look at the bottom line numbers. And yeah, that would be like, especially like at a WGI regional a few years ago, the guard I was doing was flipped up, and I panicked. I was in panic attacks going in because we know what that means. Uh-oh. And it was true, but at least we found it out 3 weeks before Dayton. A lot of folks are hesitant to put the kid over the book. Lots are, especially down on the field. You may find it on the field more than any place, faster, possibly. But don't be afraid to send that message, and maybe they're tied. The subcaption tie is always a good sign, too, of like, oh, this is in trouble. What else do you do with simultaneous responsibilities of layers or things like that, or emotional construct add to, or whatever. But yeah, very good point. Didn't talk about the flip because we're still so focused on that top box of trying to get everyone buying into top box and recognize the top box and then the derived achievement. But yeah, it should be out there to do that. Other comments about that? Flipping the box? Yeah, bro.
I oftentimes run into that problem. You know, you're looking at the design, step of the program, and you put it over top, you know, you flip the boxes, you'll find that a lot of staffs don't understand that concept whatsoever. And you should probably be prepared to explain to them, hey, sit down, slow down.
Yeah, I actually would start with saying, I profiled you tonight this way. I would start with it so they know. Yeah, John.
I think that's a different conversation to have when a team is done versus not done, too.
Exactly right.
If they're done and you're saying that, then they're really going to be panicking. If they're not done, it's an assessment.
Concur. Absolutely.
The staffs that have the long-term view of things, where they really are looking at next year and the following year, that's a good message for them if you get to the end of the year and,
That's right.
and they're 3/4 performer over
Flipping, yeah.
It says next year bite off a little bit more.
I agree.
You know, get a little more out of your comfort zone because you have the potential. Your kids at least do.
Well said, man. Other points? This is good stuff. I'm honored to be with you folks. Thank you for your time and your effort and your energy. Please don't be afraid to hit me up. I do get back to you. I apologize if it takes a little bit of time, but I do respond back. Do your self-analysis. Trade tapes with each other. I'm going to send you tapes of mine, some of you, just to get feedback, to see where it goes. Okay? Other questions? We good? Paul?
We're going to take a break, regroup at 2 o'clock. Welcome to our wonderful hospitality.
Where's my
The visual judges are going to go straight down the hall into the large conference room, straight ahead.
Great job, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you.